Right. Right. Today is March 25th, 2022. My name is Alexander Newton. I'm in Blacksburg, VA at the Inn at Virginia Tech. Joining me for an oral history view are
Cynthia Lyons
and
Burmeta Marlin.
This interview is part of an oral history project that is documenting the family history of descendants of the fractions, a family of formerly enslaved people who lived and labored at Solitude Plantation in Blacksburg, VA. Thank you for your willingness to share this story. Do I have your permission to record this audio?
You do.
Yes.
All right, so let's start with when and where you were born.
Okay, do you want to start or you want me to just start, Cynthia?
Well, I was originally born in Detroit, Michigan in 1956.
Oh, okay. You want to start there? All right. I've been a Virginian all my life. I was born in 1943 in Roanoke, Virginia, and lived my entire life in Virginia. Did not intend to, but I have been here.
Absolutely.
And my family background, we're more McNortons. Our McNortons and fractions married each other. But with my group, basically McNorton and Cars. McNortons and Cars. Mm-hmm.
So what do you guys remember your childhood as like?
Well, I grew up in a segregated society. I grew up in 1943. We had the separate water fountains for colored only and white only, separate schools. We did have inferior books, but we had great teachers who cared about us and really made sure that we learned. Our childhood, basically, the old concept of our family pushed education, owning real estate, which generationally going back was one of the things that they learned from their ancestors. That you needed to own property, you need to own your own home, not be renters. So therefore, we grew up the idea that you will do well. My mom graduated from Christiansburg Institute and was a valedictorian. So of course she told me, the first child, well, she didn't tell me I had to be valedictorian, but I was. So education was always stressed. During the day when you came home from school, you sat down, you did your homework, she checked it, you had your snack, and then you could play. But you did not go play until the homework was done. So yeah, my parents were, well, people today would say strict, but I say thank you because they made me who I am today. And took that right on and passed it on to my children and my grandchildren. So we had to go to college. You didn't have a choice. You can choose whatever major you want, but you will go to college, you and your brother. There are only two of us. I went to Hampton University, and so I have a nursing degree, RN, BSN. Later I went to VCU in Richmond, got the MSN. So yeah, and same thing with my children. You will go to college. You will get an education. So that's how we were programmed. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Well, even though this is my cousin right here, because I was the younger cousin, with Detroit, what I could remember, when we moved to the east side of Detroit, very few families moved into what you would call the white neighborhood. And so when we moved into this particular neighborhood, it was more, I think we were like the third black family moved into this white neighborhood. And that was kind of strange. But with me, I was only like 6 years old. So I didn't know the difference, you know. It was like six of us in the family, me, and three of my brothers, and my mother and father. So I didn't know anything about that. But what my mother and father told me, that more of the white neighbors were moving out and more black neighbors were moving in. Well, what did I care about that? But they wanted us to have a better education. So I didn't grow up in a public school setting. I grew up in a Catholic environment. And again, I didn't know the difference. So when I went to school, it was more, I think, 70% white and 30% black. But when I graduated from high school, it was reversed. So again, I didn't think nothing of that. But with my father, he was born in Tuskegee, Alabama, where it was more of racial divide. And he was born in 1903. So he didn't have much of a educational, being educated. So he had only, I think, like a third or fourth grade education.
Mm-hmm.
Because I noticed that when we go grocery shopping, he didn't know how to read the shopping list that my mother wrote down. And he would ask me, he said, well, what is this that my mother wrote down? I'm like, oh, it's this and this. And I still didn't understand at the time. So he insisted that all of us, me and my brothers, go to college. And so we all at least had some college. But two of us did go and finish and get our degree. I have a BA in business administration. One of my brothers, he has his master's in criminal justice. The other two, they don't. But again, that was just stress for us to at least get past high school. So that was a good thing. We had, the riots in Detroit.
Yes, the 60s.
Yeah, in
Riots
the 60s.
in the 60s. Mm-hmm.
At that age, I was probably maybe 12 years old. And I didn't understand that. Martin Luther King, he died around that era. John F. Kennedy, he died in that era. I remember my mother crying during those times. I'm sorry if I get a little emotional.
So, and if we need to take a break.
Mm-hmm. But I didn't understand, all that. I didn't understand segregation and all that. Because, the way I am, as far as my skin color, and my brothers, they were a little darker than I was. But growing up in my family, my father, since he was a little bit more brown-skinned than my mother, I'm more of my mother's skin complexion. My father even separated us in our family. He would say that me and my younger brother was associated with my mother, whereas the my twin brothers were associated with him. And he would even divide us in our home environment. But again, growing up, I didn't understand all that. Mm-hmm. So it's funny how, that's a shame how, I'm sorry to say, how white people can do that against black people. But to see that in my own home environment, to do that, and didn't understand that when I was growing up, that's kind of hurtful.
Yes, yeah.
Well, it's clear that education played a very large role in both of your upbringings.
Yes.
And especially in a time where segregation was so large of an issue. How did segregation affect your education?
Well, I had, at that time, the guidance counselor in my high school, Lucy Addison High, which is no longer a high school, as they did away with a lot of black high schools, told my parents that if I wanted to be a nurse, that I should not go to a 3-year diploma program. I should go to a university and get a degree. They were about to send me to North Carolina to a diploma program, where one of my aunts had attended. He said, oh no, she must get a degree. And so that's how I ended up at Hampton University. So they listened, and so they did that. That's how I ended up and got into education there. I have done some teaching at 3 different schools, Hampton University, Norfolk State University, Thomas Nelson Community College, and of course been in many hospitals working. But boy, at that time, we really didn't have a lot of choices. A lot of people left Virginia and went to New York, or they went to Maryland, Baltimore, Maryland, somewhere else to get nursing degrees in that time. And the only thing we had then, I think, was UVA, maybe, and somewhere else. But to be comfortable, because I had not been in an integrated, I had been in a segregated system all my life in public schools. Then Hampton University was like being with family and being comfortable and being supported. And that was very important, that we be in a supportive environment. My brother went to Norfolk State University and got a degree. But we felt more protected because we hadn't been exposed. As Cynthia growing up in the North, she had a different experience. And she was in private school. We were in public school here, and it was all segregated. So we went where we were comfortable. And even going to VCU to get a master's degree in 1971, I was the only graduate student who was Black admitted that year. But thankfully, the people admitted in the class with me, the graduate students in 71, did not have, to my, what I felt from them, I didn't feel the racist attitudes. We got along well, we studied together, we all passed our courses, and we were friends, and we went to each other's homes, we knew each other's families. It was a different kind of atmosphere and reception that I got from them, that I was very comfortable with my classmates. Now, the dean was another story. And I don't know if this should be on the interview or not. But the dean, who never left her office, had to come down to the cafeteria in the basement of the hospital at MCV to see what I looked like. Which I thought was very interesting. And my classmates at the table said, she never comes down. She never comes down here, in other words, with the ordinary people. She came to see what you looked like. I went, oh, wow. For me, that was like, okay, I didn't come from Mars. I'm not an alien. But let's go down and see what she looks like. So that's my experience, let's say, in going from one situation to the other. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
That's terrible.
Well, there's some more story behind that, too, why she had that attitude. The person who preceded me the previous year was full-blown in the long garb Muslim. She was totally Muslim. That didn't go over well. And so whatever happened, they claimed she failed out the first semester. However, she went to another graduate school and got her master's. So then I wonder, okay, was she just too Black, too Muslim? I guess I represented more ordinary people, your ordinary Baptist type person. I don't think they could deal with her in the full head and the long garments and being Muslim. I really don't. I think that was a big part of it. So she probably thought, let me go see if this oddball, another one that came from Hampton. Let's take a look, see how she looks. And so that was the only really interaction I had with her. I guess she looked, I guess she's okay, and went back to her office. Mm-hmm. So that's been, I've had some very interesting experiences, having grown up in a segregated society and system. Mm-hmm.
I guess my situation was, when I did decide to go back to college and pursue my degree later on in life, I only had one teacher who questioned, how did I get my job? And she actually thought I got it because...
Oh my gosh. That you had to be doing something morally wrong?
Yes.
To have gotten the position that you had?
I could not believe she actually said that. Only one particular teacher, and she was African American, and I could not believe she asked that question. I'm like, I got my job like everybody else and filled out the application, and they just called me. And she was trying to turn it around into a race question. I was just flabbergasted. And this was, I graduated 2002. This was 2001. Believe me, I was shocked. This is a college professor who asked me this.
Were you working for the IRS at that point?
No.
Okay, you were working for some other corporation?
Let's see, was I working? I was working for the city of Detroit.
Okay.
The Water and Sewage Department. Yeah, and all I just wanted to do was just elevate myself. After just, working for the city, being a homemaker, being a wife, and just wanted to go back to school after 20 years, and it was just one of those accelerated degrees, like University of Phoenix. It's a program up north. And I in front of 11 other classmates, I couldn't believe she asked me that question.
She said that in front of the class? Oh, wow. I know it was in front of the class. Yeah.
So I'm curious, when is the first time that you guys met?
Oh,
shall I tell that story?
yes, go right.
When Cynthia's mother was pregnant with her youngest child, she brought Cynthia, her twin brothers down to Roanoke, Virginia, to my house, and my mother, and they were little guys. They were still in diapers. So she stayed with us 3 months till she was strong enough and had the new baby to go back. And so when she went back, everybody had accelerated past toilet training. They were all good. So she only had the new baby in diapers. And so that's when I met Cynthia, and I tease them all the time. I helped change your diapers and toilet train you. So that's how we really got close. Yeah. And in my family, we always traveled north to Detroit. We had other relatives that lived in Detroit. My father said we will not go south. He did not want any racists to hurt his family or shoot or whatever, because it was too dangerous. We had all been Virginians, and he had been in West Virginia, that area, part of this country. So we would go north, but never south. We even went to Canada or whatever. But we would never on vacation go south. The fear of being harmed. Yeah.
So as you transferred into the workforce from college, and obviously faced more challenges there as well.
Yes.
In that society, what were some of your thoughts in trying to get jobs or trying to make a career for yourself?
Well, for me, my husband was Air Force, Vietnam. So the decision was made for me when not a long story, we won't get into that, but let's just say we met and we got married, and 3 days later he went to Vietnam. He withheld from me the fact that he had orders. We were engaged, and I thought, we were planning a wedding or something later on. He said, I got orders, I got to go, but we just got to go get married. So we just eloped and got married. And I went home to stay with my mother. So my first job was at the same hospital in Roanoke, Black Hospital, Burr Memorial Hospital, where I was born. And so there I was working under the supervisor who was there working labor and delivery when I was born, and with doctors who were there that I knew throughout my childhood, and my doctors. So that was a comfortable situation. So when I came back, we had at that time Black hospitals. So when I came back, we lived in Hampton, but I worked for a Black hospital in Newport News, which again, welcoming and whatever. There were people and nurses there that I knew. And so I worked there. Then he gets orders again, and he goes back to Vietnam. So where does he send me? Back to my mom's house. So let's say we had a couple of years before we had kids, because he was gone all the time. But the point is, they were comfortable positions. But then there were uncomfortable ones, in which, in those days, if you went to a majority white hospital, most Black nurses were put on the evening or night shift. So we got, probably one of my worst experiences was at a hospital in ICU working a long shift on the night, not on the day. In the day, you may have several RNs running around with a lot of help. In the night, I'm the only RN. I've got all these patients, all these IVs, all these meds. And then they give me, an LPN and an aide or something? So yeah, that was difficult. And that was the summer that I decided, you will go to graduate school. You will get your master's, so that you need to, elevate yourself too. No, this is not going to work. So that was my push, my impetus to go to graduate school. Yeah, because it was still difficult to go into hospitals that were not totally Black hospitals, because we had difficulty as far as getting promoted. We got bad shift calls, and we were, expected to carry heavy loads. Patients were just as sick at night as they were on the 7 to 3 shift. So yeah, it was really difficult. Mm-hmm.
Well, being up north,
Yeah.
from my experience, or just
Your experience, yeah.
Well, I worked a day shift. I was just a clerk. Then I got promoted to a supervisor. So really, it wasn't that bad for me. It really wasn't. And I would say Black female supervisors were a little bit harder on you than actually white men, because the main manager I had, he actually helped get me promoted. So I never had a problem. Not too much.
Well, I think it's clear to say that family is really important to you guys. You know, you grew up together, you experienced a lot together, and your families as well experienced a lot.
Mm-hmm.
So coming back to Virginia Tech as this kind of heritage, I'm kind of interested where you first heard about your heritage to
Well, this has really just happened the last couple of years. We had made contact and heard about Daniel Thorp. I've forgotten the house or how we got hooked up, but let's just say through technology, through DNA testing, through whatever, as we found out we had connections, and then met Kerri Moseley-Hobbs, where some of her people had married some of our McNorton people, and how we all hooked in together. Yeah. But this just occurred no more than 3 years ago.
Right.
Yeah. I grew up, born and raised in Roanoke, Virginia. Did anyone ever tell us that Smithfield Plantation, that land where Virginia Tech sits, that was a whole plantation? No, we didn't know all of that history. We didn't know about our McNorton and Carr families originating, well, McNorton specifically, were on that plantation. We weren't told this. As children, my age group, which would now be the 70s people, not 1970, but age of 70 plus, we would ask our parents, tell us the stories, the oral history, what has been passed down about what slavery was like. And because we knew they knew their grandparents had been slaves, which were my great-grandparents. The only response we ever got was, we don't want to talk about it. It was just too painful for us to tell you about the horrors they went through. They wouldn't tell us. But we knew they knew the stories.
Now, with my mom, she would tell me that, we had family members who were out there, like in California and this, that, and the other, and that there was maybe slaves, or we came from slaves, but she wouldn't exaggerate, not exaggerate. She wouldn't, just go on and on as far as going on with the history of it. But we did have family members, but how extensive it was, no, she didn't.
Right.
Yeah.
So we're just learning about our connection to the Fractures and the Saunders and the Moon, and all these other families.
I didn't know that.
And the Franklins. We're learning this.
Yeah.
I would say in the last couple of years since we got connected with...
this is all new.
with Thorp, with Dr. Thorp. Because we started interacting with him even before the pandemic.
Well, I'll also say this. One of my nephews got in contact with me maybe a couple of years back, and he wanted to know more about his family. And at the time, my husband was sick. He's been through a lot lately. And it's like, I don't have time, but I started giving him more information about our family on the McNorton side. And I started saying, well, you have this person and this person. Well, tell me more, Auntie, tell me more. I'm like, because right now, I'm kind of like the picture keeper in our family. And from my father's side, from my mother's side, two aunts the two aunts.
Mm-hmm.
And so I said, okay, I can give you this much information. And so he said, okay. And he wanted me to give him birth certificates and death certificates. And I'm like, come on, boy. I mean, you got to get to know him, but he's pretty cool. So I'm giving him all this information, and I said, run with it. And he ran with it. And this is how all this came about.
Mm-hmm.
And next thing I know, it's like, this is happening.
You're right.
I mean, he really ran with it.
He really did. We found each other on 23andMe. I'm on Ancestry.com and 23andMe. So I'm open to talk with people. I will message you, call you, give you my number. You can call me.
Well, like Burmeta's mom, she's the oldest.
Yeah, my mother was the oldest. Mm-hmm.
And my mom, well, she's the youngest of the sisters. And it's funny how that's coming about.
It really is. Yeah.
Because Flint and Maggie Carr
are our grandparents.
Are our grandparents.
Mm-hmm.
And of that was 5 sisters.
Yeah.
And of the 5 sisters, then that's how we came about.
Mm-hmm.
But one sister didn't have any.
Right.
That was Margaret.
Right, never had children.
Right. So you had Carolyn,
Ellen,
then Henrietta, then Margaret, and then Mamie Arlette.
Mm-hmm.
So with Carolyn, she had 2 children.
Mm-hmm.
Then you had Ellen. She got married, but she couldn't have any children.
Mm-hmm.
Then Henrietta, she had 2 children. Margaret,
no.
She never got married, had any children. Mm-hmm. That was a scary
She had a
one.
good life. That's what I was
Yeah, that's all she had. We hate to say it, but we know about.
She enjoyed her life.
Yeah, and had my mother,
Mm-hmm.
Mamie Arlette, and she had 4 children. She was the one that had the most.
Right. Mm-hmm.
So I'm the oldest, but and it's really something.
Yeah, Margaret was an RN, and I don't think she ever really intended to get married. She had worked in different states and enjoyed her life, and yeah, she had her boyfriends and took her trips to Hawaii and everywhere else, and had a lot.
Oh, believe me, it's
I think she looked at her sisters like, I don't think I want to be tied down with any children.
But there's a lot of nursing. There's a lot of medical history.
Yeah.
In our family.
And Aunt Ellen was an LPN.
Right.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But see, it's funny now with you. It bounced off of me. That's on business. But it bounced off, and then went to my daughter. She's EMT in the Army. So
and she's a major in the reserve.
She's a major in the reserve. Mm-hmm. So she loves that.
Yeah.
My niece, she's a traveling nurse.
Yeah.
See what I'm saying? So it's a lot of that medical
keeps moving
in the family. But it's just started, like I said, with my nephew.
Well, I'm curious, as this has only really happened in the past couple of years, how has that process been for you as you rediscover this kind of untalked about history of your family?
Exciting. Very exciting. And very grateful to the Dr. Daniel Thorp for his books. On the cover of the books are relatives. On his first book,
Yes.
Freedom, what's the title? I keep forgetting stuff.
Facing Freedom.
Facing Freedom. They're our great grandparents. The other book, no, the Cars on the first book.
The Cars.
Cars.
And the other one
is William McNorton.
Right. True Blues Way.
Mm-hmm. There you go.
I can't believe you published 2 books.
They're both sides of our family.
Yeah,
the Cars and the McNortons.
I'm like, what? That's just fascinating. And then to actually find relatives that only my mother's been talking about, and we didn't know about. At least
all these
I didn't know.
I didn't either. That all these people existed that we've been connecting with in these last couple of days, and we've been connecting for the last couple of years online. See, the pandemic really held us back.
Yeah.
Yeah, but we've been communicating back and forth. Yeah, but we just physically able to see each other and hug each other. It's been wonderful.
And knowing that my mother said that they're out there.
Mm-hmm.
And all this time. And I mean, it's just a miracle. I mean, there's some reason why this is happening.
Yeah. And for me, this is the most exciting year because it's my birthday, and I had no idea this week would be so great. Really, it's been a great week.
Absolutely. Mm-hmm. Well, now that really this is a very large gathering of people connected to these events, how does it feel to be able to see all of your relatives in person as well and to experience such an enormous event with them?
Oh, we just feel emotionally so connected to them, and it's just everybody's hugging everybody. It's just a great feeling. Yeah, I even felt that with Kerri Moseley-Hobbs, when we first met her a year ago. So I've been here before. This is like my 3rd time coming to Smithfield Plantation. But we met her Yeah, and it was just like, hi, family, and it's just like you feel that connection. You see the people that you've never ever met in your life, but we just feel that family connection.
This is my first time,
Yeah.
but it's still good. I mean, I get to see my cousin again.
And meet all these new people that we didn't know we were related to. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, obviously, a big part of the racial history here at Tech is the Mary Tree,
Yes.
which unfortunately was struck down and is now being turned into an art exhibition. I'm curious if either of you have actually seen the tree before it was struck down.
No, when I got here, it was already down. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Of course. Great. Then the only really other question I have is, stepping away from this conference and as people look back at these events and the weekend that's about to take place, what would you like them to have as a takeaway from these interviews, from the events that are happening as well?
I'd like them to realize that all of this is a part of American history. Let's not separate according to your ethnicity, your race. This is all part of American history. It took all of this.
We're all a melting pot.
Yes. Yes.
And I'm just glad that now we're to a point that we can just stop separating ourselves and just come together as a whole.
Absolutely. Because we would not be here. We don't look like we came out of the jungles of Africa, do we? Okay, so hello, let's acknowledge reality. Reality here. Who's that said let's all get along? Rodney King?
Yeah.
We all get along.
We all
Absolutely. Well, I'd like to thank you both so much for your time and for your stories. It's been a pleasure interviewing you.
It was a pleasure meeting you.
Yes.
Okay.
I'll just turn off the recording here. Here. And I'll turn off the recording here.